Welcome to our show today, and let me tell you, we're diving deep into a topic that's close to the heart of anyone who's ever loved deeply love-hate relationships. You know the ones. The relationships that feel like an emotional roller coaster, full of soaring highs and crashing lows. Today we're going to peel back the layers, uncover the root causes of these tumultuous connections, and discover how to navigate them in a way that promotes healing and understanding. Buckle up, everybody, because this is going to be a bumpy but enlightening ride. Chapter 1. The Psychology of Push and Pull. So, what is it about these love-hate relationships that make them so, complicated? Why do we find ourselves drawn to people who trigger both our deepest affections and our greatest frustrations? Well, it all starts in the mind. Psychologically, we're wired to seek out familiarity, even if that familiarity comes in the form of conflict. Think about it. If you grew up in a household where arguments were commonplace, you might subconsciously gravitate towards partners who mirror that dynamic. It's not that we enjoy the fighting, but there's a strange comfort in the familiar, even if it's unhealthy. And let's be honest, those intense highs and lows can be intoxicating, can't they? The passion, the drama, the making up, it can feel like a whirlwind of emotion that's hard to resist. But at what cost? That's what we're going to explore. Chapter 2. Childhood and Love-Hate Patterns. Our past experiences, particularly those formative years in childhood, play a significant role in shaping our attachment styles and how we approach romantic relationships. If you experienced inconsistency in your early relationships, say with a parent who was sometimes loving and sometimes distant, it could set the stage for you to seek out similar patterns in your adult life. You crave that love and connection, but you also fear being hurt or abandoned, leading to a push and pull dynamic. Imagine, if you will, a child who desperately wants their parents' attention. They might act out, even misbehave, just to elicit a reaction. Any attention, even negative attention, is better than being ignored, right? This same dynamic can play out in our romantic relationships. We might pick fights, withdraw affection, or create drama, not because we want to hurt our partners, but because it's a familiar way of getting our emotional needs met, even if those needs are being met in a dysfunctional way. Chapter 3. When communication breaks down. Let's talk about communication, or should I say miscommunication, because that's often at the heart of love-hate relationships. When we struggle to express our needs, our frustrations, our fears in a healthy and constructive way, it creates a breeding ground for resentment and conflict. Imagine this. You're upset with your partner, but instead of communicating your feelings directly, you give them the silent treatment, hoping they'll just figure it out. Or you bottle up your emotions until you explode in anger, leaving your partner feeling confused and hurt. These unhealthy communication patterns create a vicious cycle. The more we misunderstand each other, the more frustrated we become, and the more likely we are to resort to those familiar yet destructive patterns of behavior. Chapter 4. Under Pressure, External Stressors, and Relationship Strain. Listen, life is full of challenges. We've got work pressures, financial stress, family obligations, and the list goes on and on. And when those external stressors start piling up, guess what? Our relationships often bear the brunt of it. Imagine a pot of water simmering on the stove. It might take a while for it to reach a boil, but eventually that heat will build up and boil over. That's what happens when we're under constant stress. We become more irritable, more reactive, and more likely to lash out at the people closest to us, even if they don't deserve it. It's not an excuse, but it is an explanation. And understanding the role of stress in our relationships can help us develop healthier coping mechanisms and protect our bonds from unnecessary strain. Chapter 5. Wired Differently, Personality Clashes and Compatibility. Now let's be real. Some of us are simply wired differently. Our personalities, our values, our ways of seeing the world can sometimes clash with those of our partners, and that's okay. In fact, those differences can be exciting, even complementary. But when those differences manifest as fundamental incompatibilities, it can lead to constant friction and a love-hate dynamic. Think about it. If you're a free spirit who thrives on spontaneity, and your partner is a meticulous planner who values structure and routine, well, you can see how that could create some tension, right? It's not that one person is right and the other is wrong, but rather, their fundamental approaches to life are just out of sync. And that's where compromise, understanding, and a willingness to meet in the middle become absolutely essential. Chapter 6. Ghosts of Relationships Past, When Baggage Weighs Us Down. You know the saying, we're all carrying around a little baggage. Well, in relationships, that baggage can sometimes feel like a full-blown suitcase, filled with the remnants of past hurts, disappointments, and betrayals. And if we haven't dealt with that baggage, unpacked it, and released it, it can cast a long shadow over our present relationships, leading to those familiar patterns of mistrust, jealousy, and fear. Imagine this. You've been hurt in a previous relationship where your partner was unfaithful. It's understandable that you might carry some insecurities and doubts into your next relationship, right? But if you allow those past experiences to dictate your present behavior, if you constantly accuse your new partner of cheating or try to control their every move, you're essentially setting yourself up for another heartbreak. Chapter 7. The Pressure Cooker of Expectations, Society's Influence on Love. We live in a society that often paints an unrealistic picture of what love should look like. We're bombarded with images of perfect couples, fairy tale romances, and happily ever afters. But the reality is, relationships are messy, they're complicated, and they require work. And when we buy into those unrealistic expectations, it can set us up for disappointment, frustration, and yes, you guessed it, love-hate dynamics. Think about it. If you believe that your partner should always know what you're thinking or feeling without you having to say a word, well, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of miscommunication and resentment. Or if you believe that love should be effortless and conflict-free, you're in for a rude awakening when those inevitable disagreements arise. Chapter 8. Looking Inward, the Power of Self-Awareness. Self-awareness is key to breaking free from love-hate relationships. It's about asking tough questions. What role am I playing? What are my triggers? What are my unmet needs? What patterns am I repeating? Confronting these truths is essential for healthier relationships. Self-awareness helps us navigate relationship complexities with clarity. Chapter 9. Emotional Intelligence, the Key to Healthy Connections. Emotional intelligence is like a superpower in relationships. It's the ability to understand and manage our own emotions and those of others. It's about empathy, compassion, and effective communication. Without it, we react impulsively and escalate conflicts. With it, we handle love's ups and downs better. That's emotional intelligence in action. Chapter 10. Breaking the Cycle. Strategies for Managing Love-Hate Relationships. So, what can we do to manage these love-hate relationships? How do we break free from the cycle of conflict and find a path to peace and understanding? Well, it starts with acknowledging that change is possible. It's about making a conscious choice to show up differently in our relationships. Here are a few strategies. Communicate clearly and honestly about your needs and expectations. Don't be afraid to set boundaries. Seek professional help if you're struggling to navigate these challenges on your own. Learn to forgive yourselves and your partners for past mistakes. And most importantly, remember that love shouldn't feel like a constant battle. Finding peace in the tug of war. Thank you for joining us on this journey to understand the intricate dance of love-hate relationships. Remember, relationships are complex. They're ever-evolving, and they require effort, understanding, and a whole lot of grace. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content on navigating the beautiful, messy world of relationships. See you next time.